You're sitting in a completely dead silent conference room. A vice president suddenly turns, points a finger right at you, and asks a highly technical, direct question about your project.
Oh, yeah. The absolute worst feeling.
Right. And your brain instantly does that frantic, exhausting mental math. Like, you know the exact feeling. You're translating their English into your native language, formulating your brilliant reply in your head, checking it for grammar.
You got to make sure there are no mistakes.
Exactly. And then desperately trying to translate it back into English before you actually open your mouth.
And honestly, by the time you've constructed that perfect sentence, the VP's attention has completely shifted.
Yeah.
Like the conversation moved on, and you're just left sitting there in silence, holding on to this great idea that no one is ever going to hear.
It is such a dangerous mental math shortcut. It actively ruins your fluency because it creates this catastrophic lag in real-time communication. Literally everyone navigating a second language does it, and we are going to break down the exact framework to shatter that translation loop at the very end of this deep dive.
Yeah, you're going to want to stick around for that one.
Welcome to Fluent Immigrant. Welcome to episode 1. Today, we're decoding the hidden psychological and, cultural barriers of navigating the American corporate matrix, because having the vocabulary is really only step 1.
Barely step 1, honestly.
Right. We're looking at linguistic strategies, psychological profiles, and those weird, unwritten workplace rules to uncover why communication goes wrong and how you can actually survive it. So let's start with that initial freeze. You understand 99% of the meeting. Why won't the words come out?
So, to understand that freeze, we really need to look at this brilliant metaphor from the sources. It's called the pilot and the airplane.
The pilot in the airplane, okay.
Yeah. So think of your brain as the pilot, right? And your physical mouth is the airplane. You can spend years studying grammar rules, expanding your vocabulary, acing all those written exams.
Right. You're basically a genius on paper.
Exactly. You've essentially built the most technologically advanced airplane possible.
Yeah.
But if the pilot sitting in the cockpit is shaking with anxiety, second-guessing every single control panel, that flight is absolutely going to crash.
Okay, let me jump in and push back on that a little bit because, look, if I've memorized 10,000 vocabulary flashcards, my pilot is highly educated. Are you saying this is like a physical problem rather than a knowledge deficit?
Yeah, it is heavily physical.
Yeah.
Which it fundamentally shifts how we need to approach learning. We tend to treat language as something that only exists in the cerebral cortex, right? In the brain.
Yeah, like it's just a math problem to solve.
But fluency requires training the actual muscles, the lips, the tongue, the jaw. We call this the mouth gym versus brain training.
The mouth gym.
Yeah, because your native language has wired your facial muscles to move in very highly specific, familiar patterns. When you speak a second language, you are literally asking your mouth to perform gymnastics it has never physically practiced.
Oh, wow. So if you only train your brain, your mouth simply cannot execute the commands under pressure.
Exactly. It just locks up.
Let's actually break the script for a second. If you are listening to this right now, maybe you're driving, maybe you're doing the dishes, I want to do a quick interactive challenge. We're going to do a repeat after me protocol.
Oh, I love these.
Right now, out loud, wherever you are, say this specific phrase. Literally a little lateral.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Let's do it again. Literally a little lateral. If you stumbled over those L&T sounds, that is not your brain failing. That is your mouth lacking the muscle memory. That is the mouth gym in action.
Yeah, you can read a whole textbook about how to ride a bicycle, but until your body physically feels the balance, you're going to fall over every time.
Right. But let's say you hit the mouth gym. You get the physical mechanics down. The moment you overcome the physical barrier of speaking, you hit this massive invisible wall, which is the culture itself.
Oh, yeah. The culture is a whole different beast.
Because speaking the language doesn't mean you understand the unwritten rules of the environment you just stepped into.
And that introduces a critical concept from the research from organizational psychology. It's known as cultural debt.
Cultural debt, like financial debt.
Exactly like financial debt, or technical debt if you're in software engineering.
Yeah.
Cultural debt is what accrues when a company's culture is just ignored, mismanaged, or left completely undefined by the leadership team.
So for you, the employee, stepping into an environment with high cultural debt means you are basically walking into a minefield of anxiety-driven behaviors.
Yeah, it's a total mess.
Break down that causality for me, though. How does leadership ignoring the culture directly create a minefield for the listener?
Well, when leadership fails to define clear, tangible metrics for what, quote-unquote, good work actually looks like, it creates this huge vacuum.
Right.
Employees start to panic because they don't know how to prove their worth. So they default to what the sources call the visibility versus productivity illusion.
Oh, I've seen this a million times.
Yeah, looking busy,
Right.
being hyper-visible on Slack, and just projecting this endless faux enthusiasm becomes the actual currency. It's totally performative.
Right, like someone isn't sending an email at 11:00 p.m. because it's genuinely urgent. They're sending it to leave a timestamp proving they were awake and working.
Exactly. They're buying visibility.
And think about how dangerous that is. If you are coming from a professional culture that values quiet, humble output, where the work is supposed to just speak for itself, you will be completely overshadowed by someone who does half the actual work but just knows how to loudly announce their presence.
Yep. The squeaky wheel gets the promotion.
Which leads us directly to one of the most toxic traps in this whole cultural matrix. Imagine you're at a company town hall, the CEO gets on stage, looks at everyone, and drops this line. I want you to mentally flag this phrase, the family red flag. The CEO says, "We are a family here."
Oh, man. Run the other way.
Right, because it sounds incredibly welcoming at first. For an immigrant or someone relocated for a job, seeking community is just a natural instinct.
Of course it is. But in an American corporate context, labeling a workspace a family is frequently a calculated manipulation tactic.
Really, because I think a lot of people coming from collectivist cultures might hear, "We are a family," and feel immense relief. Like they assume it means loyalty and protection.
And that assumption is exactly why it's so incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Analytically speaking, the family label is used to mask poor talent retention, dodge fair compensation, and guilt employees into accepting literally zero work-life balance.
Oh, wow.
Think about the underlying mechanics here. You don't send an invoice to your mother for helping her move furniture, right?
Right, no.
You don't establish strict logging off boundaries when your brother is having a crisis. By calling the workplace a family, leadership weaponizes that inherent biological guilt.
It totally blurs the lines of a relationship that is, at its core, just a temporary financial agreement.
Exactly.
You provide a specific skill, and they provide capital. Remembering that helps you maintain professional distance. You aren't there to overshare deeply personal secrets, and you certainly shouldn't complain about other staff members.
No, never.
Because in a faux family environment, gossip is easily weaponized against your career progression.
Maintaining that distance is vital. But that actually raises a massive logistical problem for our listeners.
What's that?
If they aren't your family and you are actively keeping them at an arm's length, how do you actually engage with them day to day without coming across as cold or without stepping on a landmine?
Oh, that's the maze, right? Mastering American office politics and small talk. Let's start with those high-stakes meetings. You've probably been in a situation where a U.S. boss or colleague throws out a buzzword like, "Let's circle back," or "Let's take this offline."
Oh, yeah, classic buzzwords.
Early in my career, I always assumed taking it offline literally just meant stepping out of the room to chat face-to-face, like not on the internet.
And that is a classic translation trap. Your brain translates the words literally, like physically drawing a circle or disconnecting your Wi-Fi.
Right.
But in the corporate matrix, these are defensive maneuvers. When a senior leader says, "Let's sidebar offline," it usually means someone just asked a question that derailed the timeline, or maybe exposed a massive flaw in the plan.
Oh, so it's a shield.
Yeah, the leader is protecting the team's time, or occasionally just hiding their own lack of preparation. It's a corporatized way to punt a problem down the road without looking incompetent.
So what happens when a problem is too critical to be punted? Let's say a director is pushing an unrealistic launch date. In a lot of cultures, questioning the boss in front of others is straight up career suicide. How do you respectfully challenge a bad idea here without detonating your reputation?
So when the brain senses conflict, particularly one involving a power dynamic, it falsely flags it as a physical threat.
Like a tiger in the room.
Exactly. Your logical processing just shuts down. You might start speaking way too fast or over-explaining to prove you are competent. The countermeasure here is what the sources call the private chess match strategy.
The private chess match, I like that.
First rule, never initiate a public boxing match. Disagreements with leadership happen one-on-one, always.
Right.
Second, use a deliberate pause, then restate their idea so they feel validated. And third, and this is the absolute masterstroke, ask explicit permission to disagree.
Wait, let me test that logic. You mean actually saying out loud to your boss, "Do I have permission to push back on this?"
Yes, literally those words. Something like, "I see the goal here. Do I have permission to push back on the timeline?" Asking permission lowers their neurological defensiveness instantly. You aren't attacking their authority at all. You're asking them to invite you into a collaboration. And the final piece of this chess match is pivoting with the word "and" instead of the word "but."
The distinction between and but is fascinating. Like, think about your personal life. If I tell a friend, I love your new car, but their brain completely deletes the compliment.
Oh, 100%.
They just brace for the incoming criticism. It's human nature.
The word "but" acts as a verbal eraser. If you tell a boss, that's a great idea, but the budget is too small, they only hear the roadblock. You're the enemy now.
Right.
But if you say, that's a great idea, and to make it happen, we'll need to increase the budget, you've tied your critique directly to a shared corporate goal.
I really want to challenge you, the listener, to try this specific pivot in your next one-on-one meeting. Just notice how the energy in the room shifts when you replace that roadblock with a bridge.
It's magical.
But surviving tense meetings is one thing. Trust isn't really built when you're fighting over a timeline. It's built in the margins, the 5 minutes before the Zoom officially starts, the terrifying realm of small talk.
Small talk induces so much panic for non-native speakers. And it's because they fundamentally misunderstand the objective. They think the goal is to be incredibly interesting. Like they assume they need this fascinating, perfectly conjugated story ready to go at all times.
Right, like a stand-up routine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But small talk is actually just a collaboration matrix. The goal isn't to be interesting. The goal is to be interested.
I look at it like playing catch. You don't need to perform a spectacular solo juggling routine. You just need to gently toss the ball back so the other person can catch it.
Yeah, a game of hacky sack is the perfect analogy from the sources.
Yeah.
The only objective is to keep the conversation effortlessly in the air. And you do that using the magic phrase, which is, tell me more.
Tell me more. So simple.
Very simple. If a coworker says they went hiking this weekend, you don't need to formulate a complex story about your own weekend. You simply say, oh, I've been looking for good trails. Tell me more about where you went.
That's brilliant.
It acts as a hook. It sparks their ego, and it puts the burden of speaking entirely back on them while making you look like this highly empathetic listener.
It completely removes the burden of performance from you. Now, if small talk is how you build trust in the margins, the quickest way to burn that trust is violating the spatial and digital boundaries of the American office.
Oh, yes. The unwritten rules.
Beyond the meetings, there is a bizarre, highly specific code of everyday etiquette. Violating these signals to the entire office that you just don't get it.
And these rules seem trivial, honestly. But they're deeply, deeply tied to the American obsession with individual autonomy and uninterrupted time.
Let's look at the digital boundaries first. The direct drop on Slack or Teams. This is the absolute ban on sending a lone hi and just waiting for a response.
Oh, I hate when people do that. Sending hello and just waiting forces the other person to break their focus, stare at a screen while you slowly type out your actual question.
It's basically a hostage situation.
It is perceived as a blatant disrespect of their time. You got to state your entire request immediately in that first initial message. Let them answer when they have the bandwidth.
Then there's the ban on using reply all for company-wide emails, which clogs up hundreds of inboxes, and what the sources specifically call no Friday nightmares.
Yes, very bored.
You never book a non-urgent meeting after 1:00 p.m. on a Friday. And you certainly don't send a message saying, please advise right before clock-out time on a Friday afternoon.
Those Friday rules represent the sacred separation of work and self. Pushing a manufactured crisis onto someone's weekend destroys any goodwill you've built up over the month.
Total.
And that autonomy extends to physical space as well. The desk pop-in is a major violation. Just because someone has an open cubicle doesn't mean it's a lounge. You really have to respect focused flow states.
And we cannot skip the ultimate olfactory boundary, the break room kitchen law. Never, under any circumstances, microwave fish, mackerel, salmon, whatever it is.
Just don't do it.
In an open plan office, an aggressive smell is literally treated as a physical invasion of space.
It sounds comical, right? But mastering these tiny, seemingly silly rules builds your foundation. The sources use the metaphor of the deep-rooted tree.
The deep-rooted tree.
Yeah, when you understand the etiquette, the Slack drops, the kitchen rules, the Friday boundaries, you aren't second-guessing your every move anymore. It gives you this calm, unshakable strength. So when an actual crisis hits the office, your stability is revealed because your roots are deep in the culture.
Operating inside this complex cultural matrix is demanding enough. But analyzing small talk, policing your Slack messages, and decoding corporate buzzwords, doing all of this in a second language, takes a massive psychological toll.
It's exhausting.
Let's address that exhaustion, because I know listeners right now who are busy professionals, software engineers, medical students, you are running on empty.
The clinical term for this is cognitive exhaustion. Functioning in a second language, 247, drains your executive function at an incredibly accelerated rate.
Wow.
Your brain is essentially running a complex background operating system to process English, while simultaneously trying to execute high-level professional tasks. The sources use a painfully accurate visual for this depletion. They call it the blanket with a face.
Oh my gosh, I think we've all been the blanket with a face.
Yeah.
That feeling at the end of the day where your social battery is so completely empty that you literally just want to disappear into a blanket on the couch and not perceive a single human being.
Exactly. And to combat that, we have to fundamentally reframe how we view rest using the phone battery model.
How does that work?
Well, highly driven professionals often feel intense guilt when they aren't studying or producing something. But rest isn't wasting time, it's charging the battery. If your phone battery hits zero, it shuts down. Your executive function operates the exact same way.
But the transition from work to rest is where people really stumble. Like, how do you stop the lingering anxiety of an awkward meeting from bleeding into your evening?
You implement a reset button. This is a deliberate, simple physical act that creates a hard psychological boundary between work stress and home peace.
A physical act.
Yeah. For some people, it's washing their face the minute they walk through the door. For others, it's immediately changing their shoes. It's a sensory signal to your brain that the English-speaking corporate matrix is now paused. We are safe. The threat level is zero.
I love that. But once you protect your energy with that reset button, how do you actually find the time to keep improving your language skills? Because honestly, finding a spare hour to study feels impossible for a working parent.
It feels impossible because we've bought into the myth of the 1-hour study block. The solution here is a time management strategy called pocket time coins.
Pocket time coins?
Imagine your day is made of coins. Most people think they need a big, shiny 1-hour coin to sit down and practice. If they don't have a full hour, they just do nothing. But your day is actually filled with tiny 5-minute coins.
Like waiting for the bus?
Waiting for the bus, standing in line for coffee, waiting for a Zoom meeting host to let you in.
So instead of throwing those 5-minute coins in the trash by doom scrolling on social media, you collect them. You buy your fluency piece by piece. You practice one specific pronunciation rule at the bus stop.
Exactly. And you want to spend those coins strategically using the brain sponge effect. In the early morning, your brain is a totally clean sponge. It hasn't absorbed the dirty water of daily stress, endless emails, office politics.
Right.
If you spend 10 minutes practicing before that daily stress pollutes your mind, your retention actually skyrockets.
Which brings us to the ultimate shift. We've decoded the cultural debt, the chess match of conflict, the unwritten boundaries, and the pocket time coins. But utilizing these tools requires changing how you view your own journey.
Yeah. Most learners operate from a permanent defeatist identity. They tell themselves, I'm bad at English, or I am bad at office politics. It feels like an inherent character flaw.
It becomes their personality.
Right. You have to move to an empowering stance, which is, my English is under construction.
Under construction. That completely removes the shame. A building under construction isn't a failed building, it just isn't finished yet. The scaffolding is supposed to be there.
Exactly.
And that mindset is the exact key to solving the translation loop we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive.
Yes. This is the direct pathway hack.
Finally, let's get into it.
So how do you stop translating in your head when the vice president asks you a question? You combine the physical mouth gym with the under construction mindset. You stop trying to map English words to your native vocabulary.
Okay.
Instead, you map English words directly to images, concepts, and physical actions. You use your 5-minute pocket coins to practice saying phrases out loud, physically training the jaw and the tongue.
Right, building the muscle memory.
You build that muscle memory so the pilot in your brain learns to finally trust the airplane. You bypass the mental translation dictionary entirely because the physical muscles just take over the execution.
The physical, the psychological, the cultural, it is all deeply, deeply interconnected. Which leaves you with a final provocative thought to mull over today.
Yeah.
We spend so much time analyzing how exhausting it is to be a non-native speaker navigating the American corporate matrix. We talk about the burden of studying these weird rules, But what if the ultimate goal isn't to perfectly assimilate?
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
Think about the environment. Native speakers are often completely blind to the water they swim in. They don't realize how inefficient, defensive, or strange their own corporate culture really is because they have literally never known anything else.
True.
What if your perspective as an outsider, someone who actively has to consciously study the mechanics of this matrix, actually gives you a massive analytical advantage?
Yeah.
You can see the system for exactly what it is.
You see the code.
Exactly. You can maneuver through it with intention, protecting your energy, and adapting in ways that native speakers simply don't possess the self-awareness to do. The next time you're sitting in a crowded conference room, feeling like you're a step behind, remember, you might actually be the only person in the room who truly sees the board.
That is powerful. But look, surviving the office is only one half of the battle. I'm pulling up our 10 episodes pipeline document right now.
Oh, what's next?
If you think office politics are tough, wait until you have to explain weird pain to an American doctor or try to decode the bizarre rules of getting a driver's license here.
Oh, the DMV, the absolute final boss of American culture.
It really is. You literally cannot survive here without mastering these everyday systems, which is why you absolutely need to catch our next deep dive. It is episode 2, Life in the U.S., Navigating the Doctor, the Bank, and the DMV.
You do not want to miss that one. We'll see you there.